Giant demon train spider. Yeah, that's right. Those first 4 words, if they scared you, you're gonna hate this. But you know what? You're gonna love it too. Choo-Choo Charles is an upcoming survival horror open world game that is just, oh god. It's about you on a train fighting a giant evil Thomas the Tank Engine reject. But you know what? You're gonna... I'll explain it. Let's do it. Intent Shapeshifter. Okay, so the possibility of Charles, the, giant demon train spider, being a shapeshifter isn't lost on me, okay? I mean, this thing is a train with giant spider legs sticking out of its body. Plus, the whole having a thirst for blood thing. How else are you supposed to get a giant spider that's shaped like a train? I don't really know. I don't know what else could turn into this other than something that can change its shape, okay? Unless it's like a demon that's just picked 2 of the worst things on the planet. And I mean, like, spiders are like the worst thing on the planet, but having to talk about Thomas the Tank Engine on the internet is also apparently even more risky. Yes, apparently, the Thomas fans are even hornier for trains than FNAF fans are for wolf and chicken animatronics. Wasn't there like a whole Facebook group against this game? Like Thomas fans against Choo-Choo Charles or something? Or was that just a dream I had after there was like a whole bunch of like Christians against seedless watermelons or something? I don't know. It might have been in my dream. But either way, the whole shapeshifter angle makes sense given what we're dealing with here. As long as it's not like the supernatural style shapeshifter where they can only change into humans. In at 9, Evil Thomas. Speaking of which, could this just be an evil version of Thomas the Tank Engine? You might think that this sounds crazy, but come on, okay? I mean, where else are we going to find a train that looks like this? It's like the one clip from Rick and Morty's intro from season 5, like the one where they're at the dinner table, then all their heads pop off and they start running around the birthday cake. That's how I feel like this would have started, but instead of it being a head, it's Thomas. You might be thinking that it can't be Thomas because this train is red and not blue, but firstly, blood, it can be quite the pigment, but also maybe it's just James or Thomas that got possessed and then turned red or something, okay? It's a giant train spider. You can't really say that this isn't logical. Maybe the color of their trains is like the lanterns from DC Comics, like with each color representing a different emotion, and when Thomas got too angry, he went from blue to red, and then sprouted legs and got a taste for blood instead of oil. Or maybe the red trains are colored that way because they run off of blood instead of oil, or something. I don't know. I can't wait for my DMs to be flooded with haters. In an 8 story. The story also seems to be a really tricky thing because whenever you look for it online, you basically just get this Steam description saying that it's a train spider that you have to kill. All the Steam page says is, quote, complete the main quest line. And while it makes sense that the main quest line is about beefing up your train to fight Charles, the bigger question is what does the actual storyline of that main quest involve beyond that? It's interesting and we don't really have much information, but we can help out the settlers in return for high-powered weapons and other vital items, at least if we believe the Steam page. But my question is, if they have all this stuff on them already, why haven't they just dealt with Charles themselves? Why are we the only ones beefing up this train on a random island to take out a giant demon train spider? Like, if the settlers in these towns have these weapons or items or knew about them, why aren't they handling it? Okay, we're just a human too, right? It's not like the Dragonborn just parachuted onto this island and now it's our destiny. Where's the initiative? This is your lives too. You just comfortable going to sleep knowing that you might be eaten by a giant train? And it's 7, Stephen King connection. Now, this certainly is an interesting theory. I could have sworn the name of this game was Choo-Choo Charlie. It was like my own personal Mandela effect. But when I looked into things for this video, I learned of Charlie the Choo-Choo, a children's book by Stephen King, of all people. Charlie the Choo-Choo is from the world of The Dark Tower, and it's a storybook by Stephen King, published under the name of Beryl Evans. The story was written by King and published in King's previous novel, The Dark Tower 3: The Wastelands, wherein the book is found by Jake in chapter 22, and the story is intended to be creepy and give children nightmares, which I personally think makes a hell of a lot of sense, since this game also seems to be attempting the same thing, also because it looks like Thomas. In the book, Charlie gets abandoned by his engineer Bob in favor of a newer, better model, and then there's even a picture of Charlie crying dark, oily tears and getting, all rusty. He then gets repaired by Bob, but what if he didn't? maybe that's the story that Choo-Choo Charles is trying to tell. And at 6, Hell on Earth. Or I guess Earth in hell would be more accurate. You see, this doesn't seem like anywhere that would reasonably exist on any Earth, okay? Like, I get that it's an island, not close to anything like no major cities or whatnot, but also, there is no goddamn way that the world's military does not know about Charles. Like, if you so much as juice an olive onto a plate, the US is going to invade it, so how would they not have seen this island, investigated it, and then just left it? That would have been the next damn target for any form of weapons test, okay? My thinking is that given that this is a giant train spider that seemingly comes out of nowhere, that the settlers have the means to stop him and aren't really doing it because somehow you're the only one who's willing to, and the fact that this is an island, meaning that you can't get off of it, and you'll probably have to kill him just so you can get onto a boat in peace, that this is just a simulated world space and that you're actually in hell, because you know what, this is my personal hell. Whether this is like a Dante's Inferno situation or maybe you're just having the best Diablo run of your life, I can't be sure, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's revealed to be just one of the many layers of hell and someone finally decided to rebel against the situation. Or maybe we play as Satan, who is trying to test the settlers to see if they'll do anything about Charles themselves, and they don't. How we doing at number 5, Hype Conspiracy. The hype around Choo-Choo Charles is actually pretty damn high, especially considering the minimal marketing. I mean, it was like right next to Resident Evil, Spider-Man, and another game that I'm forgetting the name of on the Steam wish list a while ago, or before Spider-Man came out for the PC. But it also just started off as a challenge on the 2-Star Games YouTube channel. The challenge being to develop a game within a year. But as the project grew, the game got delayed multiple times, understandably, especially considering how it's one dude. But this begs the question, would it have succeeded without those delays? Putting aside the higher quality of the models, the textures, etc., if the game that was releasing on Friday was released after that year challenge, would it have done as well? Online conspiracy theorists think no, and think that this year-long challenge was a marketing ploy to help generate hype for the game, which ultimately worked. And honestly, I don't know if this is accurate or not. I've known about the game for a while, personally, for over a year. I thought it had released when I learned about it the first time, but it hadn't, and I was disappointed. But if this is all marketing, absolutely brilliant. That is some genius level marketing there, and it didn't cost really anything, okay? It grew because of people talking about it, and then people talking about it made it grow more. It's that kind of marketing that people have been trying to replicate since the Blair Witch Project, and I respect it. Okay? I went to school for that. That's damn impressive. Okay? If it was intentional, well done. If it wasn't intentional, well done either way, okay? Good job, 2-Star. Good job. And for Eternal Torment. In the same vein as the layer of hell idea, what if this is just pulling a FNAF and making all of this just the eternal torment of our player character? Well, I say that, although that isn't the case with Ultimate Custom Night anymore, but still, maybe when they were living, they weren't a good person, or maybe they just pissed off the wrong people, because I stand by the fact that a giant train spider, okay, is even too damn fantastical for a video game based in reality. Of course, I could be wrong, I usually am. The creator can do whatever they want in their worlds and we just have to believe it and accept it. But so much is unexplained. The same reasons for why it could be a layer of hell apply to why this is just our own personal hell. Nobody else knows about this, the unexplained origins of Charles, the settlers just accepting that they could die at literally any point despite having the means to stop their tormentor. It feels like they're setting us up to be the hero intentionally, and that if we do actually come close to taking out Charles, that we'll just have to start the cycle all over again. Because the real torture is being unable to win despite knowing that you would have. That little part of the human brain that can't leave a level unfinished or can't quit in the middle of something. That could be what ultimately destroys us in this game, and not a giant train spider. Why is that the villain? Getting close to the end, into number 3, Dream Theory. Speaking of pulling a FNAF, there's also the classic "this is just a dream" idea. The idea that none of this is actually happening, but it's just some messed up nightmare that we'll wake up from after killing Charles, which might be one of the most intense dreams I've literally ever heard about at all. Like, yeah, my dreams can be weird sometimes, but they're never I have to fight off a giant train spider demon thing, okay? The weirdest I can get from recent memory that I actually know I dreamt about and that I wasn't possibly thinking that I dreamed about and might not have actually happened was that I was dating a girl from another Earth. That yeah, it was like DC Earth 2, and that's where she lived, which is, trust me, is worse than saying she lives in Canada, which I mean, I guess that's a common thing in the US, but since I live in Canada, I can't really say that because no shit. Like, I don't lie about it anymore, but like mine used to be she goes to another school. So whichever one you use, it's even worse than that one. Nevertheless, even in my weird alternate reality girlfriend's Earth, nobody was dreaming about Thomas getting bit by a freaking radioactive spider. Nobody. But ultimately, in number 2, why? This is a question that many people struggle with in general. Like, why? Why anything, really? Why do we have to breathe? Why does our blood need oxygen? A lot of questions are centered around the idea of why. But when it comes to this game, the why I'm worried about is why the actual living is there a giant train spider on this random island? Seriously, how does this happen? How does a giant train spider actually come about? And why are we the ones who have to fight it? Why isn't anyone else doing anything? Why is it that Charles is seemingly only focused on killing us? Is it because we have like the little engine that reminds him of his Stephen King origins? Or is it because he's just a messed up guardian from Breath of the Wild gone unhinged? Why is literally anything happening in this game? I don't know, obviously, otherwise this wouldn't be a theories list, it would be an answers list. But still, this is the biggest question that I can't wait to have answered when the game comes out. And finally, in number 1, cult. There's also one other recurring enemy in Choo-Choo Charles that isn't a giant train spider. I'm gonna keep saying giant train spider because that's the description. Instead, it's a cult surrounding that giant train spider. And honestly, I have no idea why they formed a cult. Maybe, perhaps they see him as some form of god, since I mean I'm fairly certain trains becoming spiders would be a rare thing even in this universe, but how did they start that? Who started the idea that he was a god? Like, was someone saved by Charles? Like, by just being in the right place and then getting attacked with Charles just over yonder, and then as they were tearing apart those people, he ran away? I don't know. Was it Bob the engineer who abandoned Charles, who now just wants to make amends? Or is it just some crazy guy who thought that they were meant to be subservient to the giant train with spider legs? I don't know. But what I do know is that they're big enough to have multiple camps around the island. I'm guessing that they're going to be storing a fair few of the key items needed to fight off Charles, and they're going to be a major pain in the ass. Hopefully they aren't drinking ink though, because we all know how that ends. It's a bendy reference for you guys. And if you want to know more about this game, be sure you actually subscribe, because I'm going to be hyper obsessed with it after it comes out, at least for a little bit. So there's going to be a decent amount of videos on it until my brain gets the better of me, at least. But thanks for watching.